Hello, I am Goose, and I want to talk about One Piece, and you're gonna listen! One Piece is a manga series published on Shonen Jump by Eiichiro Oda, and has been consistently publishing new chapters since the late 90s. One Piece means a lot to me. I've been reading and watching the series wherever and whenever I can for a few years now, and I quickly fell in love with the setting, lore, power system, and most of all, the characters. There are a lot of characters in One Piece, too many to keep track of, so the subject of this video is the main cast, the Straw Hat Pirates, with Monkey D. Luffy captaining this mighty crew. Mostly mighty crew. Every character on the main cast is just brimming with personality, and it makes them hard to dislike. Although, obviously, some are better than others. That's why in this video, in celebration of the One Piece manga hitting quadruple-digit chapters, and still holding the title for best-selling manga of all time, I'm going to rank each and every Straw Hat based on my opinion. So just know you don't have to agree with me. I was originally going to make this a list of my top 100 favorite One Piece characters, but I ran out of time. So here's my ranking of every Straw Hat in One Piece. Before we begin this list, I'm going to tell you my honorable mentions. These are the characters I was thinking of putting on the list, but I wasn't sure if they technically counted. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Goose, there's only like 10 Straw Hats. Shouldn't this just be a top 10? Well, yeah, let me explain. I wasn't too sure if they technically counted, because some of them actually feel like members of the crew. The first is Nefeltari Vivi, a temporary Straw Hat who hung out with the crew for a considerable portion of the first half of the series. She's a pacifistic princess who only wants the best for the citizens of Alabasta, and her friends as well. She also has a cool duck, but I didn't think she counted because she was only a temporary member. She'll always be a Straw Hat in my heart, though. The next few are characters who have either spent a considerable amount of time with the crew, or have a very strong tie to one or more of the crewmates. This includes characters like Carrot, Ace, Sabo, Rayleigh, Pedro, Bartolomeo, Kinemon, and Hancock, among others. Although, Carrot is considered one of the candidates for next Straw Hat by most of the fanbase. There are too many characters who Luffy considers friends, so I just decided to only focus on the main protagonists. However, there is one character who was introduced fairly recently who is a strong runner-up for next Straw Hat. Yamato. I won't go into their story too much here, but basically they have strong ties to the lore of several important characters, and the majority of the fanbase sees Yamato coming along for the ride to the end of the series. Although, Yamato feels a little too new to become a new crewmate just like that, so again, confirmed Straw Hats only. Alright, enough banter. Let's get into the rankings. I'm probably going to get some flack for this, but at the very bottom of this ranking we have the vice captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Pirate Hunter Roronoa Zoro, or Zolo, if you're a knobhead. Zoro is a powerful swordsman who is a master of Santorium, or three-sword style, which just means he likes the taste of the hilt of his sword. Zoro is a serious and tactile slasher with deadly precision and no sense of direction. His dream is to become the world's greatest swordsman, and all he has to do is have a better mustache than this guy. However, Zoro doesn't really do it for me. I've seen plenty of swordsmen throughout my time reading stories and watching anime, and Zoro's toolkit just feels painfully average, especially in a world where people can control the weather, stretch like rubber, shoot fire from their legs, or whatever other nonsense happens in this story. What can Zoro do? He shoots lasers, sometimes, and he's strong. Don't get me wrong, Zoro's a fine character. I think it's funny how he's always working out with the comically large dumbbells in his mouth, or wherever else he chooses, and I love how he's constantly picking on his captain and the crew members and whatnot, but he just feels bland when compared to the other characters in the main cast. He's cool, but not all that creative to me. Let's move on before people get any more mad at me. At number 9 on my list, we have the Straw Hat Doctor, cotton candy lover Tony Chopper, and one of the more recognizable characters in the series. He's a scaredy cat who has gone through one of the more noticeable shifts in style as the series evolved. Chopper is a character made for the Christmas arc of One Piece. What, was that not already obvious? I mean, a blue-nosed reindeer, a fat jolly man who eats as the villain, a snowy island, and a getaway on a sleigh at the end of the story arc? It doesn't sit quite right with me that most of his physical traits are just Christmas-related, although nowadays you can hardly tell he's a reindeer. Chopper has one of the most unique abilities in the series, being able to change between different forms, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Chopper's dream is to cure all illnesses, and no one really takes him seriously. I mean, the Marines consider him a pet of the Straw Hats. Despite that, he still ends up being a very well-rounded character. I just wish he wasn't a support character most of the time. He hasn't really had much fighting time in the second half of the series, at least in terms of major battles, but what we have seen of Chopper has shown me that he is certainly a valuable member of the crew, although prototype Chopper looks really, really cool. But I digress. Snatching the number 8 spot, we have cat burglar Nami, no last name given. Nami is the navigator of the Straw Hats, which means she does more captaining than the actual captain. Despite being reduced to a support in combat nowadays, and fan service in most other areas, she's a very intelligent girl with a very heartbreaking backstory, which ties into one of the best arcs in the series. On top of being good at whacking people with her staff thingy, she can also control the weather, which is absolutely bonkers. Unfortunately, in the current story she doesn't do much other than look pretty and help out the stronger characters in battle, which is a real shame. There's a lot of potential in her toolkit that just goes without use because girls shouldn't fight. Or whatever Oda is thinking that's preventing Nami from doing any actual combat. Actually, on second thought, Nami is horribly outmatched by any current antagonist. It's a bummer, but it makes sense why she doesn't fight. Oh yeah, she's also really cute, so that's in her favor too. At number 7, we have the long-nosed longshot of the Straw Hats, God Usopp. Usopp is a great character, who probably has some of the most development out of any of the protagonists in the whole series. And most of it was over the course of one story arc. And although he went back to the status quo of being a coward, he still went through the character arc. Usopp is in a similar situation as Zoro, except the exact opposite. Zoro has no supernatural abilities, but is very strong to make up for that. Usopp has no supernatural abilities either, but is the weakest member of the crew. That doesn't mean he's not useful. He's a deadly sniper and a decent liar, if that's a good thing. He's also a good artist, inventor, and generally a jack of all trades, except fighting. He's also a lot funnier than Zoro, but his cowardly shtick gets kinda old, even if I do like it. If this were me from a few years ago, Usopp would be much higher on this list. But times have changed. Also, why did they whitewash him in the anime? Next up, the super shipwright from the Straw Hat Pirates, Cyborg Frankie. Frankie's just great overall. Cyborg? Check. Pompadour? Check. Cool sunglasses? Check. Fueled by cola? Check. Bumpin' theme song? Check again. It also helps that he's a top-notch engineer and inventor, making all sorts of great stuff for the crew's ship and whatnot. Although, his current design pales in comparison to his original. Frankie is a noble warrior, who will always opt for a fair fight in a battle between men. He also has a lot of important knowledge which allows him to make such advanced machinery in the first place. So he's a real threat when he isn't messing around with his hair or posing like a weirdo. I really like Frankie. However, with the main cast being so big, he doesn't get to be in the spotlight very often. But when he is in the spotlight, you know you're in for a good time. Not much else to say about Frankie. He proves his placement on this list himself. At number 5, we have the mortified maestro of the crew, humming swordsman Brook. Brook is without a doubt one of the funnier characters in the series, even if he is kinda predictable. He's a jolly heap of bones with a deeply rooted afro and a horrific backstory. On top of having a devil fruit that keeps him alive until his bones break, he has the ability to manipulate the souls of others through his rockin' music. Brook's dream is to meet an old friend again. Now, you may be wondering, what friend of a 90-year-old skeleton could still possibly be living today? Why, a continent-sized whale, of course. Brook is just one of those characters that falls into the trope of horny. However, he hardly ever has to resort to this perversion due to how much more gentlemanly he is. He also doesn't discriminate based on looks. For example, she asked a giant 68-year-old woman with 40-plus children to show her loosey-goosey to him. If that's not inclusive, I don't know what is. Brook is most definitely one of the better characters in One Piece. He's funny, has iconic quotes, he's a goofball who can make any grim situation seem comedic, but can also bring tension. And he gave this series one of its best diegetic songs. So, what's keeping him from being higher on this list? Well, they're just better characters. Sorry, Brook, but you're stuck at the start of the better half of this ranking. Finessing the number 4 spot, we have the all-star chef, Blackleg Sanji Vinsmoke. Sanji holds the title for horniest man ever. He practically can't hit a woman, and will do everything in his power to try and get into a girl's pants. But above all, he'll protect a lady to his dying breath. If they're attractive, of course. He doesn't care much about ugly ladies. He's also a really good chef, and has a raging rivalry with Zoro. The main reasons I like Sanji so much are for his theme song, which slaps, and his fighting style. I've always liked kicking more than punching in almost any scenario. And you're telling me there's a guy who can kick the air to fly around, and light his own feet on fire for more damage? I'm in! He also has a very deep and layered story that spans the course of the entire series. He is a very complex character, even if he seems one-dimensional on the surface. He's an excellent member of the crew, and I wouldn't trade him for anyone else. Well, except maybe the next 3 on the list. Taking home a bronze medal today is the protagonist himself, Captain Monkey D. Straw Hat Luffy, the titular leader of the Straw Hat Pirates, and a friend to just about anyone he encounters. There isn't much to say that hasn't already been said. He's a gluttonous bonehead who has stretchy powers, a heart of gold, and a dream of true freedom by being the king of the pirates. And that doesn't even include his backstory with some very major players in the series. Well, one major player. Anyways, he's a really good character. To be honest, he's only this high because I love the idea of being able to stretch wherever I want, whenever I want. His personality is kind of cliche, that being the hungry knucklehead who is always a nice guy. But I like his design and his abilities, and his voice is nice. Although he was a lot more charming in the first half of the series. I like him back then a lot more. Taking home a sweet silver medal is the deceptive and mysterious devil child, Nico Robin. Robin is a very calm and collected character who has a very valuable role in the crew. Archaeologist. What do archaeologists do on a pirate crew? Well, they have libraries in their room. And, they can read dead languages? Okay, so honestly, she really has only one major role on the crew. But if you think she can't fight on her own, you need to get your head checked, because you are brainless. She has a history in the series of being nigh untouchable thanks to her power. I mean, if I could break someone's back from 20 feet away, I'd probably be considered pretty strong myself. She, like Usopp, has a huge 180 character arc and the best story arc of the series. And unlike Usopp, she actually keeps her traits throughout the rest of the story. It's a shame she takes a back seat in the combat nowadays like Nami, but it's whatever, I guess. Also, why did she get whitewashed like Usopp? Bring both of them back. What? Just like, why? Bring both of them back. Come on! Bring both of them back! Now, if you're familiar with this series, then there's really only one person left to take the gold medal home in this video. And it's the most recent member of the crew, Straw Hat Helmsman, Knight of the Sea, Jinbei. Jinbei? Jinbai. Jinboy? Jinbei turns the wheel on the ship and makes it move around. He acts rather seriously like Zoro, but unlike the bonehead at the bottom of this list, Jinbei is willing to smile every once in a while, and actually have some fun with the crew. He also has some history with the crew, despite being the newest member. His dream is to end racism, which is based. Jinbei has a cool design, cool fighting style, and he's an enjoyable character. And dang, it's hard not to love this guy. He's a good fish boy, and I'm hopeful for what awesome fights he's gonna have, as One Piece begins its end from chapter 1000 and beyond. So, there it is. All the Straw Hats ranked. You probably don't agree with my list, so yell at me in the comments, why don't you? If you haven't seen One Piece, read it then, Chowderhead. What's the matter? Afraid of reading? Anyways, that's all. My name is Goose, and I thank you very much for watching. Now go away.